Let's talk hiring. Does it feel like a big mystery to you? Do you know who you should be hiring to have the biggest impact on your business right now? Here's what I want you to know. I invited two amazing ladies who work for Blank Slate. They're an outsourced HR agency that they're a startup themselves. They work with startups to help them solve their hiring and HR problems. So who better to join us in this conversation to talk with us about what we should hire for, when we should hire, how that all works, what onboarding looks like, all the stuff you need to know when it comes to building your team, than these two amazing ladies from Blank Slate, Danielle and Izzie. All right, Danielle and Izzie, thank you so much for joining us. I am really excited to talk about hiring and bringing more people into your business to make your life easier and hopefully make more money too. So why don't you guys, there's two of you, which is unusual for an interview I do. So why don't you introduce which one of you is which and a little bit about what your role is in the business you run, and then we'll get into the juicy questions.
Absolutely. Okay, I'll go first. I'm Danielle Lovell. I'm the COO and one of the co-founders of blankslate.partners. So we're an outsourced HR agency, and we specialize in rapidly growing businesses who need HR expertise on call.
Mm-hmm. So I'm Izzie. I'm the CEO. You asked about sort of our individual roles within the business. I think I'm sort of the one that I am the one that tries to drive the bus and keep the strategy on point, and every day I would be lost without Danielle.
Love it. Part of the reason that I asked that question is because you're in a business where neither of you are a solo in this. And so many of the people who are going to be watching this are either solo themselves or, they've recently come out of being solo. And so this whole idea of working in a team and having defined roles and all of that just seems so foreign that it's, and a lot of them don't even come from, a corporate background. And so hiring really is a blank slate. And I'm curious, with outsourced HR, where should these people start thinking? Where do you begin?
That's a really good question, and it's a hard question. So both Danielle and I come from having our own businesses in the past and also working in a corporate world. And when we came together to build Blank Slate, we knew we wanted to do it as a team. It was something that was very important to us. For those of them out there that are trying to do it all on their own, that's a lot of work. Typically one-on-one, when I'm talking to new clients and coaching them through where they want to go and what they want to do, the first thing I say is, what is the low-hanging fruit? What are you doing today that is causing you a horrific amount of pain that you shouldn't be doing? And what is your value? What are you worth? So if you're the CEO or the COO or the driving visionary entrepreneurial force behind a business, what are you best of the world in? And how do you get yourself to a point where you're doing that? What we see a lot of the times is CEOs taking on recruitment, taking on administration, taking on finance, accounting, taking on building a website. And these are not things that they're good at. So don't do them. That's the bottom line. Don't do them. Find a way not to do them, whether it's outsourcing, paying a company, paying an individual. Get out of the work that you're not good at and get into the work that you are good at, because that's what will make a company survive.
Yeah, that's what, to hop on that, that's what had us split our roles into CEO and COO. I can play with tech tools all day long and connect them all and Zapier everything, and that's not really Izzie's favorite thing. So we, to put it mildly, we sat down. Originally, we wanted to have a job description so that we were both clear on what we were doing in the business and where we were spending our time. And halfway through trying to write the same job description, we realized that
wasn't the case.
Yeah, we just don't spend our time on the same things. And so we broke out what are the things that we both have the appetite and capacity for, and the things that we don't, we swapped to each other or looked to hire someone for.
Yeah. We actually, interestingly, took part in a thing called epigenetics testing, which is a new version of Myers-Briggs, essentially. And what was really, really interesting is if you put Danielle and I together, we are a whole person. But if you separate us out, I am massively conceptual thinking, strategically orientated, and all the way out there. And Danielle's very much like putting everything in the right box, organizational, operationalizing things, and keeping them all like neat in components. So as one together, we make one perfect person.
It reminds me of a quote I read, and I unfortunately can't remember where I read it, so I can't cite it, but it was the idea of when you hire people, you want to hire people who in aggregate will be better than you are. No person will be as good as you are at everything you do, but an individual person will be far superior to 100%. You in certain areas. Dan Sullivan talks about what's your unique ability as a business owner. And what I really like about what you said and what really jumped out at me was talking about, when you were trying to write your job descriptions and all that sort of thing, it was when you started to look at the roles, the actual things that needed to be done, that you started to see where your respective role ends and where someone else begins. And I think that's an instructive lesson for people who are thinking about hiring, is to think about not in terms of job titles. It's not, do I need to hire an administrative assistant or a COO or a marketing assistant or whatever, but instead, as you said, to think about those specific tasks.
Yeah,
that
100%. We just went through that process. It's interesting because we ourselves are a startup supporting startups. So we go through a lot of the same processes and questions and queries that our clients go through, which I think is kind of nice because it means we can really put a personal touch on it. Danielle and I recently built out what we like to call our marketing team, which is sales and marketing, but we've blended it as one. In doing so, we plotted through the sales and marketing sales funnel and what that looks like and what little job is required. And when I say job, I don't mean job description. I mean like what action is required at each point. And from that, we were able to clearly build out 2 roles. And they may not be your atypical sales and marketing job descriptions that you're going to find on a website if you Google marketing coordinator, but they're very clearly now defined within a job and a title, and we know what our individuals that we've hired are going to be responsible for, and they know what they're going to be responsible for. So hopefully success in that role will be so much better than being like, ooh, well, we need a salesperson, we need a marketing person. Okay, well, Google sales descriptions, Google marketing coordinators, that's what we need, because that wasn't the case. So we built it out by function and action, and then built a job description around it.
Yeah. So for everyone, I was just going to say, for everyone who's watching, we've said this over and over and over through the content series, pretty much every week: function before format. What's the function of the job description before, or of the role of the job that needs to be done? What's the work that needs to be done before you come up with the format of what that's going to look to? And that was actually going to be a question I was going to ask, which is, what about, we talked about everything from web design to sales and marketing, and those aren't all equal kinds of tasks, right? I mean, a website, you might need someone to update it, but a redesign is something that's more of a project based. So how do you differentiate between when you need to hire someone just for this project versus when it's time to bring someone in-house or as a retainer contractor or something like that, where they're going to be with you, month in, month out?
People, processes, and tools.
That's how we break it down. So, you go.
The people are the resource. What people do you need to do something? What is the process that needs to get it done? And what are the tools that can do it? So, not in every instance does one person become a role. If it's people, process, and tools, there might be a tool that can be used on a contractual basis. Maybe talk about our accountants.
Yeah, we work with an outsourced accountant who's got us set up in Xero. So we have a tool, and they do all of our bookkeeping. Thank you so much to them. They're angels. And we've set up the tool so that, like many of your listeners, we just send our receipts off into the abyss, and they code them in the back end for us. And with those things together, their agency and a tool, we don't need someone internally because that we're just not at the capacity that would need a full-time accountant on our team in-house.
And for us, it costs us, I won't say exactly what, but a very small amount to use. But it was costing us in time that we were doing, well, it was costing Danielle, who was trying to do the payroll, time to do the bookkeeping, time to do the invoicing and the management of receipts. And it was basically taking her a full-time role. So for us, we traded off outsourcing with a process and a tool to get time back that Danielle could use in other ways.
Yeah, it was a minimum of 10 hours a month. So we looked at our billable rate and looked at how long that was taking and multiplied those together. And we were like, oh, is the tool and the outsource help cheaper than that? Yes. Okay. Yeah. And does our cash flow work with that? Great. Yes. That was the decision making, because we did it ourselves, because at the beginning, cash flow dictated that time was the currency.
Yeah. That's something that's interesting when we think about hiring. You know, it's not just about offloading work, it's about increasing your capacity. But of course, the only point in increasing your capacity is if you're going to do something with that new capacity, right? So just because you free up all this time doesn't mean you're automatically making your billable hourly rate worth out of it, unless you can go and fill that time with clients. Now, I know that sometimes when it comes to hiring, especially if you're looking at bringing someone in, you're not completely trading off 10 hours and requiring zero in return, because you have to be a manager and you have to do hopefully not too much performance management, but probably a little bit. Yeah, onboard them, all of that sort of thing. So I'm curious how you consider that part of the process when you're in this decision-making piece of it.
Yeah. For me personally, it's an investment. So we've just added 2 new people to our team, that's sales and marketing roles. It's marketing. We've never had anyone in those roles before. These are brand new created roles. They're not atypical roles because we've created them from actions and tasks that are required. So there is going to be probably, I would say, a 1 month to 3 month ramp up period for both individuals, in which time both Danielle and I are going to be actively involved in their success. So I'm a huge believer that an individual success within a company or a small startup or joining a new team is 100% directly responsible to the manager, the person. So if this person fails, it's because we haven't managed them right. We haven't trained them, we haven't educated them, we haven't taught them. So we need to invest as much as we can, even if that's a full-time role, in training them and teaching them, so that when we take our hands off, they're successful. And when we take our hands off in a month or 3 months, whatever it might be, please be a month, please be a month, that we can take our hands off and we can trust them and they become an asset to the company. So it's an investment.
And one of the things that kind of helped us think through so one of them's an employee and one of them's a contractor who likely will flip to an employee. And part of our decision making of what made one versus the other is the contractor. We don't yet feel super clear how much work we're going to have for her. And so that was part of our decision making for that is when we're uncertain about what we're going to be giving to her, that bringing someone as an employee doesn't make sense. That's when there's like dedicated long-term work, long-term relationship. And we expect that we're going to want to bring her full-time internally, but because we can't guarantee it right now, contractor was part of that decision.
We were very transparent in the interview process as well, that we were hiring for a 3-day-a-week part-time contractor with a view to hiring long-term, or we wanted to invest the same amount of training that we would, whether they were 3 days a week or full-time. But budget-wise, we were very transparent that we just don't have that full-time capacity right now.
Yeah.
Probably will in a couple of months.
And of course, folks watching this are watching from all over the world. And so, a disclaimer, check with your local jurisdiction about what the legal requirements are between contractor and employee, because, even from Canada to the US, they're quite different in terms of what the rules are. So, legal disclaimer, go and check with someone who knows the laws in your jurisdiction.
Cool blankslate, I'll tell you.
Fair enough. But I love this conversation about onboarding. I was listening to a webinar, and they had said, they were talking about the difference between hiring someone who's an expert and can pick up the role because that's they have some expertise there, versus where a lot of people go is, oh, I'm just going to hire an intern. I'm just going to hire an intern. It's like, okay, hiring an intern is great, but they're going to be more in the 3 to 6 month range of being able to get them, because you're not just training them in your business. You actually have to help them build their skills, whereas you may pay more for someone who has some expertise, but the onboarding process is much more about onboarding them into your business rather than trying to teach them how to do what they need to do. So I'm curious, when we talk about onboarding, what are the sorts of things that we need to be aware of? You guys are just doing this now. So what are you thinking about as you're onboarding team members to give them the biggest chance of success?
Yeah, I wish I could share with you a document that I sent to Danielle the other day, which is the start of our 30, 60, 90-day plan. So for us, the first week is possibly the most crucial, but there's a little piece before they even start that is critical to the individual's success. So how do you welcome them to the team? How do you make them feel part of the company? How do you buy their emotional investment into what you're doing and the product that you're creating or the business that you're building? Because the more emotionally invested an individual is into your success, the harder they'll work. And that starts from the recruitment process, to be perfectly honest, all the way through. So our first week is actually nothing to do with their role. It's all about learning about who we are, who our clients are, what our values are, how we work, getting set up so that they know what technologies we use. It's purely just about integrating them into the company. Yep. There's an introduction lunch with the team, spend time, half an hour here, go for a coffee with this person, find out what they do. Connect on a really personal level. And that's week 1. So week 1, they won't even probably touch the work they're doing. For the sales individual, week 2 through to 4, so the first month, it will probably be chaperoned sales. I'm not just throwing them in there. And even if they were the most experienced person in the world, I wouldn't throw them in there, because how we sell is so different from how other companies sell. And what is so clear and so important to us is that they need to understand what Blank Slate does and how we speak and who we are in order to be able to enroll clients into the values and the visions that we're working towards. So the first month is pretty much, it's training.
Yeah, it's a lot of us talking. Like we'll finish things like this.
Yeah, and it's a lot of us listening, because one of our core values is partnership, and we know what partnership means to us, but I want to know what partnership means to them as well, and how does that translate? So when they're in their work and they know what their job is going to be and their role description is, what pieces of partnership and how can they pull that out, and how at the end of the day could they say that they've been in partnership with our clients, with the people we work with, and with each other. So, and that's just an example, but that's a lot of the work that...
Yeah. We're a really values-driven company, so we've done a lot of work to figure out what are the core values behind why we even do people work, why we do HR work. And so part of the first couple weeks is like really helping imbue that. So for our team members, if we're not available that moment, they have to make a decision, they can go, okay, well, what would be partnership for this decision? Or what would, embody this right here? So helping them be able to there's a bit of a we know it in our gut because it's ours, but having a way to train them so that they too have that kind of decision making and driving force behind the work that they'll be doing.
Nice.
So I guess to answer your question, for other people out there, I use a template. So I literally write down 30, 60, 90. 30 is 4 weeks, 60 is 4 weeks, 90 is 4 weeks. And I write down my side and their side and what success looks like. So mine are actions and theirs are goals. And at the end of each week, and the cadence is quicker in the first 30, it's every day, with a check-in. So as it gets towards the 90, it's every week. It's saying, did you do what you think you wanted to do this week? Did you achieve what you wanted to achieve? Did you learn something? Are we in communication? Are we connecting at the way we want to connect? How I educate you, is that how you learn? Because there might be, us sitting in a room being like, this is how we do it. And they might be like, oh my God, I don't learn that way. They give them a document and all of a sudden they're into it. So getting really connected to make sure that each handoff happens. And then at the end of the 90 days, you have this document that you've both filled in. and you have this sense of achievement that you can hand to your new employee and they can hand back to you and say, we did this, cool, I feel good. And it sets you up for success for the next 6-month review and the next 12-month review, because you can have pivot points that you want to work from, you can have goals to achieve, and you can say, well, did we get there? Okay, well, a 6-month review, we knew we were struggling at this at 90 days. Have we worked really hard to get there? Yes, we have. If the answer is no, then maybe this isn't the right relationship.
Yeah.
It gives you cadence and steps to work from.
And anyone who's watching will know I love quarterly, I love 12-week or 3-month or 90-day, however you want to think of it. I mean, that is my ideal time frame. So I love that you're looking at, you know, the onboarding process of bringing a new team member in as, you know, this, it's not something that happens when you make a hiring decision. It's not something even that happens in the first week. It's something that is an ongoing process. So the one question that I know, if I don't ask you, I'm going to get in trouble from everyone. They're going, why didn't you ask this question? Where do you find these people? You know, where do you find these people? Everyone wants to know, like, how do you hire, like, the right person who's going to have that energy and investment? Where do you find these great people to hire?
That's such a complex question.
Lots of places.
But it's also a very simple question. So for each area, there are job boards. So you can post. For every hire, there are what we call active and passive candidates. So active candidates are ones that are going to respond to a job posting. So let's say you post on LinkedIn, or if you're looking for a technical role, you post on Stack Overflow, wherever it might be, you post on these places. The ones that respond to those are your active candidates. Those are people actively looking for a new role. A lot of the times when we're fishing, especially for a more senior role, we actually want the passive candidates. Mm-hmm. We're very lucky if we get an active candidate that hits exactly what we want. So the passive candidates are the ones that are happy in their jobs, that don't necessarily want to move just yet, but would move for the right opportunity and are inspired by different things. And in that case, it's headhunting. We use LinkedIn really, really pretty intensely. It's networking. If you're looking to build out a role in your local community, it's going to meetup groups that are in line with your business, getting to know people, asking for referrals. We have a number of clients that are members of CEO groups, and they ask their friends. They're like, hey, friend that's also in the CEO group that's a mentor of mine, I'm looking to find this. Do you know anyone? Did you find anyone? Lululemon, which is where I got my training as their manager of global recruitment, we really believed that good people knew good people. So we hired through the law of attraction. And it's something that we've continued today. Our team, with the exception of the 2 new hires that we did post for, so our founding team, all came from referrals.
Yeah, we're all referrals. And one step back from where you go hunting is finding those good people takes being clear on not just the tactics, but also your vision for the role and your values. And you're like, okay, this person is going to be empathetic, they're going to be detail-oriented, and what was the other one for our sales?
There was 5.
Oh, yeah.
There was 5.
There are only 3 that I remember. But
Organized.
So when we basically created a persona for what we wanted for that role, and then we thought about, like, where would they be? Where would they hang out? Are they in Facebook groups? Are they friends of our friends? Are they things like that? So those 2 together.
Yeah. Just in a lot of ways, you know, the folks watching this, we spend so much time thinking about sales and marketing and, like, building your email list and building your audience and figuring out who your ideal client is. These are transferable skills, guys. Take what you do to learn about your customer and apply them to building your team. Apply them to growing your business. And you don't have to make it more complicated than it need be. Just like we use referrals to get new clients in our business, we can also go to our colleagues or look in our local network, look in our local community and say, you know, who's there that is the kind of person I need. So ladies, thank you so much. My video is freezing a little bit. I think it's because there's a thunderstorm rolling in. So I think it's a good time probably to wrap up here. Before I do that, do you have any resources or any links? Tell us where we can find you online. Just where can people get more help if they want more help?
You can find us at blankslate.partners, and we're building out a resource library and blog on our blog, so blankslate.partners/blog.
Yeah.
We're early days. We're actually revamping our own website with a brand agency, so we chose external. Please just do it for us was how that decision was. So you'll see that in the end of September, but until then, blankslate.partners/blog.
Yeah. And then for those of you who talked about hiring sales and marketing being a huge conversation and that cross-functional understanding, there's a book by Mark Rober from HubSpot called The Sales Acceleration Formula. I highly recommend everyone read it, even if they're not building a sales and marketing team. The concept of how to hire is phenomenal.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much for joining us, for sharing your wisdom, and I can't wait for everyone to be able to hear and watch this interview. So thank you again.
Thanks,
Brian.